Hi everyone. Today in this video I will be explaining you different constraints in SQL. Now the first question comes in our mind, what is constraint? Constraints are nothing but conditions, some limitations, restrictions that can be applied on the tables on a different attributes, that is called as constraint. So in SQL we have different constraints like primary key constraint, unique key constraint, not null, check, default constraint, foreign constraint, and I will be explaining you these different constraints by giving an example of employee entity set. We will consider employee is a strong entity set which has different attributes like EID, email, salary, age, employee's name, employee's address, employee phone number. So one by one I will be explaining you each and every constraint that can be applied on the table. So firstly I will explain you what is primary key constraint. Primary key is nothing but the constraint that can be applied on a particular attribute so that the records for that attribute will be identified uniquely. The value for that attribute identify that attribute uniquely, that is nothing but primary key constraints. So here in the employee table we can say that EID is nothing but our primary key constraint because each and every employee will contain unique value. That value will not get repeat for EID, so we can call it as a primary key constraint. So here in this example, EID is acting as a primary key. If we take another example, student table, then we can say roll number or PRN number or registration number can act primary key for student table. If we take staff table, then staff ID can act as a primary key for staff table. Likewise, we can give number of examples. So here we are talking about primary key. So EID is our primary key. Primary key means what? The values will not get repeat. The second constraint is unique key constraint. Now by the name only we can say that the attribute which has unique value is called as unique key constraint. So dear all this constraint we are applying on the attributes only, attributes of the table. So unique key constraint, unique value. So here if we take an example of email, each and every employee should have single email. Okay, so that value should be unique for each and every employee. So email can act as unique key for our employee table. Then it is also unique, EID also unique. Then what is the difference between primary and unique key? Then the difference between primary key and unique key is primary key cannot be null, whereas unique key can be null. This is the main difference between primary key and unique key constraint. So here in this example, email can act as a unique key, right? Then the next constraint is not null. By the name only we can say not null. The value for that attribute cannot be null. So here not null constraint we can apply on name and address. Okay, so whenever we create table, these type of constraint can be applied on the table. So name cannot be null, address cannot be null. So we can give not null constraint to name attribute and address attribute, right? So the next then we can say that the combination of unique key and not null key becomes your primary key because primary key cannot be null and it is unique. So the combination of unique key and not null becomes your primary key, right? Then our next constraint is check constraint. So what do you mean by check constraint? We are checking the value of particular attribute is nothing but our check constraint. So for example, here we can say age. Okay, while entering the records, we are giving check constraint on age. Until and unless the age is not greater than 18, that employee cannot recruit in the company. That is the example. So what is our constraint? Check constraint. We have to check age of employee, whether he or she is greater than 18 or not. So that type of constraint we can apply on age attribute, right? So check constraint can be applied to check the value of particular attribute. The next constraint is default constraint. By the name only we can say default. We are giving some default value while creating the table. So here we can say that salary. Okay, so while creating my table, I will give salary. By default, the salary is 20,000. So there is no need to insert values for sal attribute. While creating my table, I will define salary default value 20,000. So how many employees we are entering doesn't matter, but salary for each and every employee will be 20,000 only, right? And the last one is foreign key constraint. Foreign key constraint, primary key constraint, already I have explained in my last videos. But here, how can we apply foreign key constraint? So here I can explain you my phone number. Phone number is my multi-valued attribute. And about the conversion of multi-valued into table, I have explained you in my last video. So again here, e-phone table will be created in the second part, and there I will refer primary key of this EID in this table, right? So my EID is acting as a foreign key in this e-phone number table. So for better understanding, you can refer my conversion of multi-valued attribute into table. In that video, I have explained it with better example. So here different constraint I have explained. So how to apply this constraint while creating table? Okay, so this is my syntax. Create table, name of the table, employee, EID, data type integer, and primary key. As I explained earlier, EID is my primary key because it is underline. It will contain unique value. So EID int primary key. Name, its data type not null. It cannot contain null value. So it is not null. Address, data type, not null. Email, we were talking about unique key. So email, its data type, and here the syntax to define unique key, unique. And then salary, its data type int, and by default it has value 20,000. So whenever I create my table employee, I am writing it sal int default, and its default value 20,000. And my next attribute age, its data type int, and here I am applying check constraint. Check whether the age is greater than 20 or not. If that employee's age is greater than 20, then it will insert record into table. Otherwise, it will give an error and it will fire the message, please check constraints. Please check constraint. And default value 20,000. So no need to insert values for sal attribute. And for foreign key constraint, we are creating second table e-phone number, in which we are referring EID as a foreign key from the employee table, and phone number and EID will act as a primary key, composite primary key. So dear all, I have explained you all different constraint and how can we apply that constraint while creating the table. Hope you all have understood all types of constraint that can be used in SQL. Thank you for watching this. Thank you. Thank you.